Alright, welcome to a video on finding the midpoint and distance using the midpoint and distance formula of some segments. Now, I just want you to know in this video, and it's going to be a little different than the practice problems and the quiz. So in the practice problems and quiz, you will have to actually find the endpoints from the picture and then do all this. Here, to save time and to give you more examples, make the video shorter, which I know you want, I've just found endpoints, written them down, and we're going to find the midpoint and distance of those. So it's just one extra step. It's not too hard. It's clearly indicated on your practice problems and quizzes where the endpoints are. You just got to do a little bit of counting to figure them out. Oh, and you got to write them down too. It's always a good idea, unless you think your memory's that good. So, the midpoint formula. That's what this is up here. It's x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and then y1 plus y2 divided by 2. You do that, that'll tell you where the midpoint is of your segment that's between your two endpoints. So this may look a little familiar to you if you had algebra or just in general. We're finding the average. So when you find the midpoint, what you're actually doing is you're finding the average distance between, I shouldn't say the average distance, you're finding the average of your x values and the averages of your y values. So you're finding the average, and then that's where the middle is. So, first thing you should do is with your two endpoints, after you have them written down, is label them x1, y1, x2, y2. You may think, oh, I don't need to do that. Trust me, it helps. Helps you remember. So now all you have to do is look at the formula and plug it in. So with our x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and our y1 plus y2 divided by 2, we can just plug in the numbers. So in place of x1, I'm going to put 7. So it's going to say 7 plus, I think I need that parenthesis to be a bit bigger, plus 9 divided by 2. And then we do 4 plus negative 1 divided by 2. So 7 plus 9, 16. 4 plus negative 1 is 3. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And I want you to put the decimals because I want us to think about this as if we are going to graph it. I want to graph a decimal instead of a fraction. So write down the decimal form of these. So I'm going to do 2 more examples with you and give you 3 examples to do on your own. So I'm going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and then I'm going to skip writing down the formula again. I'm just going to start plugging stuff in. So I'm going to do 8 plus 0 divided by 2, and then negative 9 plus 5 divided by 2. Now, please remember, if this is your x1, this has to be your y1. Keep them there. It's not going to really matter so much with this formula, but with the other formula it is. So it's just good practice to get into. So we get 8 divided by 2, negative 4 divided by 2. So we get 4, negative 2 as our midpoint. I'll circle these since there's a lot of parentheses there so you know that is the answer that we're looking for. These are the answers we're looking for. Star Wars reference. So we have our x1, y1, x2, y2. So we do 1 plus 1 divided by 2. Then negative 7 plus negative 12 divided by 2. We get 2 divided by 2. And then we get negative 19 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Negative 19 divided by 2 is negative 9.5. And circle. Okay. So if you have any questions, pause the video, rewatch it, or ask me, ask somebody around you. After that, I have 3 examples for you to try on your own here, so go ahead, pause the video, and do that now. Alright, and here are solutions to those. So go ahead and check your work with mine, make sure we both did it right. And then we're going to move on to the distance formula. So the distance formula is up here. It is d for distance equals the square root of the whole quantity of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So this is the one where we have to make sure we get our x1s, y1s, x2s, y2s all in a row when we do this. So let's go ahead and start. So we're going to label this x1, y1, and the other one x2, y2 again. Now we're going to plug it into the formula. So since I didn't give myself a bunch of room, we're just going to start here, and we're going to do x2 minus x1. So we're going to do negative 1 minus 7 squared plus y2 minus y1. So we're going to do negative 4 minus 3 squared. The reason we're squaring it here, this comes from the Pythagorean theorem, which you'll learn later. So when we get to that, we'll talk about it a bit more. So that's why this square comes in. And the square root also comes in. So we'll learn about it more later. Right now, let's just get this going. So let's simplify. Negative 1 minus 7 is negative 8. Negative 4 minus 3, negative 7 squared. And if you're going to type this in the calculator, make sure you put it in parentheses. If you don't put it in parentheses, the calculator will do what you tell it to do. And it won't do negative 8 squared. It will do 8 squared and then make it negative. So make sure you put it in parentheses. Write it like you see it. Type it like you see it. Don't try to take shortcuts here just because you don't want to push 2 extra buttons. So you'll see that gives us 64 plus 49. Now we do 64 plus 49. We get the square root of 113. And I'm sure everybody here knows the square root of 113 as a decimal, so we don't even need to worry about that. And I don't really know what it is exactly. I have a guess. I know it's going to be a little bit more than 10. So if you get the square root here, make sure you put the square root into the calculator and get yourself a decimal to work with. And let's go ahead and round our decimals to the hundredths place. So we're going to round to the hundredths, so 2 places, and we get 10.630. Hundredths is the second, so we look at the 0. 0 means it's going to stay the same, so we get 10.63 as our answer. We're going to go over here and do the same thing. Distance formula. So we're going to do negative 3 minus 3 squared plus 0 minus negative 5 squared. And we know 2 negatives, that changes to a positive. So we'll do that now. Let's start simplifying. This gives us negative 6 squared plus 5 squared. And again, keep it in parentheses. It's a good habit to have. So negative 6 squared is 36 plus 25. 36 plus 25 gives us 61. And we're going to put that in the calculator. And we get 7.810, round to the hundredths. 0 again means we keep it at 7.81. So there's our distance formula. So what this tells us is how long something is. And since we're on the coordinate plane, these are units. So this is 10.63 units on our coordinate plane and 7.81 units on our coordinate plane. So now I have 2 examples for you to try on your own. So go ahead, pause the video, and do those now. And you're finding distance. Alright, so here are the solutions. Check your work with mine. After you get that done, you're done with this video.